I was sitting here thinking and reflecting on what it's been like in recovery. And, my today, April 19th, 2006, is the last day I used. And I was thinking, I'm on the way to breakfast with dad, and I was thinking, just like, when you get your token every year, kind of stand there and talk, and you say, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And I don't have a clue. It's been crazy. It does not seem like 18 years. It seems like maybe 10. I sure have missed the mark on, I guess what I perceive recovery to be multiple times. I've I've fallen short. I've met defeat numerous times. There's been weeks at a time that I've laid in bed, like depressed, you know, over one thing or another. There's been times where I didn't even participate in my own recovery outside of not using and like going to my friends' celebration birthdays. There's been countless days where I haven't involved God at all, never prayed, never even considered or thought of him. So those are the things that I haven't done. I would say the things I have done are, I guess the most important is to be convinced that there's no way or no combination of ways that I could drink or use drugs and like be okay or get away with it. And I think that's the most important part of all of it. Of course, God. But I'm only here because I was bankrupt, dude. I was bankrupt. My friend Dan killed himself after we spent the whole night getting blasted out of our minds. I woke up and I had to go to court, and I remember just begging God, just weeping. I was done, man. And I just begged God, please help me, please change my life. And I just repeated that over and over while I sobbed. I have no idea how long I was on my knees on my mama's couch saying that over and over, but it seemed like forever. But I went on to court that day and I went on to prison. Once I did that, I don't think I realized the power of what I was tapping into, because since then, my life has been different for sure. So I refuse to accept the old belief and the delusion that somehow, someday I could control and enjoy my drinking or my use, because that's the only thing I've done perfect is not use. And I remember Towns, when I got the treatment out of prison, Towns said, my counselor Towns, Lee Towns, he said, do you know this process has a way of putting you right back where you would have been had you never even came off track, Ricky? That's like there's such a sweet moment for me, because it was like I was 23. I had no ambition outside of being the man, and I trusted Towns. And when he said that, I was all in. I said, oh, it's going to put me back where I would have been had I never came off track. Bet. And I haven't been high or drunk since then. And that's the most amazing part of the 18-year journey, for real. Towns also told me another thing when I was in treatment. He said that this was towards the end. He'd gotten to know me really well by then. He said that he said your ambition is what's going to kill you. And I don't know if he planted that there and that made it true, or if he just nailed it. But all the problems I've had, all the challenges I've had, all the defeats I've experienced are a direct result of my ambition. Meaning, I'm very driven for just to experience life, man. And I'm just convinced, my innermost self is convinced that I can do and I can be anything I want to be. And because I believe that shit, and I still do. But because I believe that, I say yes to things. I have ideas. People bring me ideas and I check them out. I'll pray about them. I'll sit with them. I'll breathe for a minute and I'll think about it. I consider the pros and cons. And even if there's a risk, I just say yes. I'd be doing stuff. And, there's been times where I've had so much on my plate with multiple businesses that I've neglected important relationships. And, you know, it's always been I guess the whole journey for me, it's always been a constant, it's all about the iterations, right? It's all about the iterations. And what that means is a day that I wake up and remain sober and apply everything I've learned and apply, what's true for me and my values. And live, I make an iteration to live in alignment with those ideals and beliefs, and to be disciplined enough to carry out what recovery says I should carry out for me. I do that each day that I do that. That's an iteration. And how life and how anything is, business, ideas, music, it's all iteration. So each day that I wake up and do that is an iteration. And I think that is what got me here, is iteration after iteration. So I rehearse in my mind what I think my day should look like. And then I implement it. I get up and I do it. I iterate. And then I review it. I look at, what I thought I was going to do, what I did, and then I revise it, and then I start over. I rehearse it, I do it, I review it, I revise it, and that's the process, man. That's how I've stayed sober for 18 years. My official sobriety date isn't until tomorrow because today was the last day I used. But that's the piece for me, it's about the iterations and being convinced and knowing that, just like, if once I took the option of using off the table, it was no longer a choice. And that means that there's certain things that I just have to do. I have to show up. I have to be involved. I have to be committed. So that's how I did it. Long version. On the way to my breakfast with Dad. Yeah.